The British have always been known as the masters of double-decker bus design and production. But what happens when someone else decides to build a double-decker bus? The results can be somewhat quirky, to say the least. This is the story of the Fiat 412-1 Aerfer VE.111 Metropol, the bus where there was always room at the top. Hi, this is Jeffrey. Now, as we all know, the British are the ultimate when it comes to double-decker bus design and production. Now, other countries have tried to build double-decker buses, and I've done some videos on them, such as the yellow coach buses of the 1930s that were built mainly for New York and Chicago, and the Cityrama tour bus for Paris, although admittedly that bus was meant to be outlandish. Now, in the 1960s, Italy tried their hand at designing and building double-decker buses, and what they came up with was something that was quite unusual. Now, I've always seen pictures of this bus, and I never really knew anything about it. I never really knew the history of this bus, and so I did some research, and I found out that this is the Fiat Type 412 bus, and that's what we're going to learn about in this video. Now, Rome had a modest fleet of 412s, and other cities used them as well, and there were several variations of the 412. And we are also going to learn about why it was lonely at the top of the 412. So, let's get started in learning about Rome's Fiat 412 double-decker bus. It is often the case that when anyone outside the UK designs a double-decker bus, the results can be, well, somewhat different, or even strange. The Fiat 412 is one model that certainly illustrates this point. Inside this bus, two staircases were fitted, and the driver sits slightly to the left of center in a separate full-width cab, of which the windscreen could have come from a Dutch bus of the late 1950s, while the upstairs front window has hints of Harrington or possibly some duple coach designs. And then there's that very apparent sloping rear. The Fiat 412 was a model that was purchased by a number of Italian cities between 1961 and 1970. A batch was also tried out by RATP in Paris. Specifically for Rome, the full model name was the Fiat 412-1 Aerfer VE.111 Metropol. After the unsuccessful experiments of the 1930s, ATAC, the Roman municipal transport company, decided to give the double-decker bus concept another look, in an attempt to overcome the reduction in capacity following the abandonment of a large part of Rome's tram network. Two prototypes were initially purchased, number 3901 and 3902, which entered service in the spring of 1964. They were built on a Fiat 412 chassis derived from the 410 chassis, but modified for the greater weight of the double-deck vehicle. The 410 was a very successful type of single-deck bus, of which over 1,000 were built for Rome between 1960 and 1973. The bodywork for the 412 was developed by the aeronautical manufacturer Aerfer of Naples with a strengthened body shell structure in light aluminum alloy. Additionally, the shape of the chassis allowed for the first application of a partially lowered floor in the central part of the vehicle. Now, let's take a look at some of the general specifications of the Fiat 412 in Rome. Number 1, length is 11,000 millimeters. Number 2, width is 2,500 millimeters. Number 3, height is 4,200 millimeters. Number 4, weight is 8,800 kilograms. Number 5, maximum speed is 52 kilometers per hour. Number 6, top of floor at center of bus is 400 millimeters above the ground. Number 7. Each door opening is 1,350 millimeters. Number 8. Distance between seats on the upper deck is 540 millimeters. Number 9. Engine is the Fiat 412H/61, generating 176 horsepower. And rounding out the list at number 10, gearbox is the Fiat Morelli 4-speed semi-automatic with electro-pneumatic control. The 412 chassis was built at the Pomigliano d'Arco plant in Turin. The bus follows the 3-door, 4-part folding door layout, with a rear door beyond the rear axle and a central and front door between the two axles. The front and central doors were reserved for boarding for both the upper and lower decks, with the conductor's seat placed near the front door and disembarking from the rear door. Experimentation with the two prototypes continued for about 2 years, and although it seemed to give good results, the double-decker actually proved to be an unsuitable vehicle for the Rome bus network. The fear of not being able to get off at the desired stop caused passengers to crowd the lower deck, which had 12 seats and space for about 50 standing, leaving the approximately 35 seats on the upper deck almost unused, which meant that the advantage of the greater overall capacity of 97 passengers was lost. Despite these problems, ATAC placed an order for a further 16 buses in 1966, 15 in 1968, and 25 in 1969. The last series was characterized by a rounded windscreen rather than the 4-part angled shape that had come into use on buses since 1959. This was probably a modification requested by the staff to improve visibility. The 412s operated only on lines 64, 85, and 88, while the further intention to use them on line 93 did not happen. In total, Rome acquired 58 of these most interesting double-deckers, and some remained in service until 1981. Several other Italian cities operated the 412, some with differently styled bodywork by Viberti. The 412 was replaced by the 413, which was, at least visually, even more impressive.
Wow, that's amazing.
And finally, if you really like the Fiat Aerfer 412, Ixohache produced a model of this bus, which has become very collectible. So there it is, the story of Rome's Fiat double-decker buses, the interesting and unusual bus where nobody wanted to ride on the top because they feared that they might miss their stop. Now, a few other interesting things I've read about this bus is that the driver's area was very, very hot, and it was a very uncomfortable bus to drive. At least that's what I've read. Also, there seems to be at least one of these buses still in existence. I think it's part of some type of historic fleet or museum fleet. So there is one, it looks like, that still does survive. So what do you think of this bus? Is it interesting? Is it unusual? I'd like to hear your opinion on this bus. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed this look at Rome's Fiat 412 type buses. And as always, thank you so much for watching, and have a great day. Bye.